Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, where we'll be talking about Twitter for business. So if you want to understand how maybe to leverage Twitter in your business or for your personal brand, then I have got some incredible panelists for you today who will share their knowledge with you about how they built their Twitter following, and they understand the psychology of Twitter. So we'll get into that. Just before we do, I want to say thank you to the panelists for bringing their knowledge to the table and helping this evening teach you what they know. And I also want to thank our partner, Tide Banking, who support all of our initiatives on the webinar side. We are here at the Purposeful Project to help 10 million people start and grow a business for free. We will never charge anybody for help to start and grow a business. We're not in the business of upselling you a course halfway through an event. We're here to give you knowledge for free to help you have a better business life. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, you can ask them in the Q&A. We will have two bits at the end. You can type a question if you're shy, and I'll read it out to the panelists and answer them for you. Or you can come up on stage and ask your question direct of the panelists if you're feeling brave. And so this webinar will be later placed on YouTube. Just bear that in mind if you do come up on stage later, but look forward to hopefully bringing lots of knowledge to you. For all of the panelists, I suggest you follow them on social media. I do, and I learn from them. And I suggest that you do that, and we will put the links to their social media, all the panelists' social media, in the comments now. So feel free to follow them. So let's just before we get going, actually, I've got COVID, by the way, folks. So my brain is a little fuzzy, not as sharp as I usually am. Some would say I never am, but I've got COVID. But there's one other thing I've got to mention. We have our partner, Tide, who basically help us promote these events and support us every way they can. Also, Sammy, who should be in the audience, will be in the comments section. He's from Tide. If you have any banking questions, you want to understand how to get the most out of your banking facility, then you can ask him in the comments and he will help you. And if enough people are interested, he actually runs a webinar after this webinar, educating people a little bit about how to get the most out of their business banking. In addition, Tide have offered anybody in our community £50 if they open up an account with Tide. I'll just highlight this is not an affiliate link. We don't make any money from that. That's not the aim of this. It's just to help you maybe get a better bank account and get some money in your bank straight off. And there will be a code, I think it's the P project, which maybe not the best code in the world, in the comments. Now Talia, my colleague, will put that in the comments so you know exactly how to get that £50. Now let's get straight to it and talk to our first expert. Blair, would you like to kick off by telling everybody listening a little bit about yourself and what you know about Twitter?
Hi, everyone. I am Blair Kaplan-Venables. I'm the president of Blair Kaplan Communications. I'm a social media marketing expert and mentor who empowers entrepreneurs and other marketing experts to up-level their social media skills. I'm based in Canada. Can't tell by the accent. British Columbia, actually, to be exact. And let's talk about my background. I went to school for public relations many moons ago, and social media marketing wasn't even a thing. I worked for a company called Lululemon Athletica at the time, and I moved from Winnipeg, Manitoba, my hometown, to another city called Edmonton, all the way to BC, and I wanted to move up in the company and do PR. They wanted me to fold stretchy pants for eternity. So I quit at the age of 23 at the beginning of the recession, and I started my business. I started Blair Kaplan Communications. And so upon starting that, I was networking and I'd meet people. And because I'm a vintage millennial, people would ask, oh, you must know how to use social media for marketing or for PR. And I would just say, yes. There was no panels like this to go to. There were no textbooks. There were no courses. There literally was me figuring stuff out. See, I almost swore there, but I didn't. I was figuring stuff out. And so I like to say I learned stuff the hard way so you don't have to. My business is almost 14 years old. So as social media evolved and grew, I took what I learned from public relations and applied it to social media. I created the social media empowerment pillars, which is I create empowerment plans, what has to do with social media and publicity for businesses. And I teach that. So my background with Twitter, I learned how to use Twitter actually from Vancouver, BC's first blogger. I worked at an entertainment marketing company to supplement my income because, again, I was in my 20s, had no idea what I was doing in Vancouver, very expensive. If you know, you know. And I learned how to use Twitter, and my job was to grow radio shows following. So get them onto Twitter and grow their followings. And I quickly learned how to use Twitter as a real-time communications tool and how to grow a following on Twitter. And I fell in love. And I, to be honest, I'm in and out, like a love-hate with social media. Like it is my life, but I also love disconnecting. Like nothing's better than like going into the woods and knowing being able to reach me. Am I right? Like it's nice to be disconnected. But Twitter has always been that one staple of social media that's always been there. And I've been brought into organizations to build out communication tools using Twitter, using real-time communication. And so I've had a lot of experience on the corporate side, on the crisis communication side, but I also love it for news. I love it. I love celebrity news. I love to know what's going on in the world of like Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes. And I love that I can find out information faster on Twitter than any other social media network.
Yeah, Twitter's amazing in that regard. I still, sometimes when I hear a news alert on Twitter, I'm not 100% sure it's real yet, though. So you can hear it first there, but not always sure that it's absolutely real.
Well, what's really funny? And I don't know if anyone else, like I love I love Instagram and I love LinkedIn, but Instagram goes down. So nothing's funnier that when Instagram or Facebook goes down, if you go to Twitter, like that's where people go to ask. Like Twitter is like the OG. It's that's like, true. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Well, look, we have some questions that are already sent in from our community. And one of them was how to use Twitter effectively to grow a brand. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so people do business with people they like, know, and trust. And behind all social media and all brands are real people. And it's really important that you have a really strong engagement strategy. It's not just about pumping out content. It's about being a real person and using Twitter as a communication tool and a customer service tool.
Customer service is interesting. So I see a lot of brands trying to do that, but I always feel like they drop the ball. Do you think there's any best practice that you've seen that works best in that way?
I think it depends on the industry and like how big your business is and how many resources you have allocated to it. Like Lululemon Athletica, they do really good. Here's an example. I had an Airbnb booked and I had to cancel it. And for whatever reason, they refunded a credit card of mine that wasn't my primary credit card and it was actually no longer active. And I know it's my bad for not deleting it. I emailed them and put in customer tickets. And finally, after weeks of doing that, no one got back to me. I sent them a tweet and within seconds they messaged me. So I mean, you can use it for crisis communication and whatnot, but you can also be really proactive about it and share what's going on in your industry and get ahead of it. I've worked in the transportation industry before, and we would always try and get ahead of a crisis. We would share real-time information and get ahead of any news story. So no one else was telling our story and that we were telling our own.
You mentioned strategy there. That's another question that we got sent in. Best tips for creating a Twitter strategy. What's the best process for people listening to actually do that?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of repurposing content, especially with Twitter. You have 280 characters, plus you can have threads. If you make a tweet and it's killer, and then like time goes by, maybe it's a couple weeks, couple months, think about where that tweet is. That tweet is like in the abyss because the ticker moves so fast. So first of all, repurpose content. If you have content that performs well on Twitter, keep reusing it. You don't need to put the tweet out once. Think about TV shows. Remember when we used to watch TV on like cable when there was commercials, not like Netflix and everything? Like people need to hear the same message over and over again. They need to see that tweet over and over again or modify it. So I think repurposing content is really important, but also repurposing content that's on your website, on your blog, other social media networks, and also having a user-generated content strategy where you're sharing other people's information, other people's content, because one, that person's going to notice you. Two, social media is not a place just to like broadcast information out about your business. It's a place to edutain.
And scheduling wise, is there any strategy you implement because it feels like it can be a never ending pit of, I could tweet 500 times a day, for example, and never speak to my son. And still feel like I haven't really, done enough. How do you deal with the scheduling side? What's your strategy?
Well, I used to use something called Hootsuite where I would schedule like the bulk messaging, and then the prices changed from a nominal fee to an exorbitant fee because I was grandfathered in. And so Twitter, you can schedule directly into Twitter. I think if you are organized and have a strategy, you know what content you want to put out, maybe you're doing a product launch or you're in the news and you have information you already know you want to put out, go in and schedule it. If you think that you're not going to be able to go put it out in real time, which is all of us, because we're so inundated with information and so busy or very fulfilled. But I personally, I go for myself through phases where I just post in real time. But when I'm really organized, and for my clients that I do work with, create content ahead of time and schedule it. And then anything you do in the real time, like engagement, you have to make sure you have time in your schedule to engage. So in my schedule, there are times blocked off that are dedicated to social media engagement.
Do you think there's any best practice on the amount of times you should tweet in a day, or in Twitter's case, doesn't matter?
I don't think it matters. I mean, unless you're like, it's super political, you don't want to get red flagged. You don't want to get, banned. I think if you have something to say, tweet, but don't just tweet to tweet, because people will unfollow you. You'll be seen as spam.
Yeah. I think, with all the other social media platforms, it feels like there is generally a rule, like reels do one a day at least sort of concept. But I think with Twitter, it is just, I think there is just no real rule on it. Although I have personally seen, if I've got a tweet that's going viral, probably good not to do another tweet, because it might take away from that tweet that's doing well. But I don't know if you've had any experience with that side of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a workshop actually I called F the Algo. Like, I don't really I know there's algorithms, but they're always changing and they're always so different that I don't create content or do anything by any rules. I don't make the rules. I just break the rules. I create content when I want. I talk about what I want, when I want, how I want. And if it means that I just spent 20 minutes on Twitter and I just retweeted like 13 tweets and I responded to 5 people, so I did.
Love it. I think that's a great philosophy. So just a final question before we move on to Lewis for his insights. What content is best used on Twitter to gain engagement in your view?
Well, if you're stuck on what do I talk about, look at the trending topics. There's, what's trending. If you can come up with content that has to do around with what's trending, that's a great way to get more eyeballs on you. Also, people like to be edutained. They don't want to be told stuff. They want to laugh. They want to smile. They want to learn. So content that can be, I call it edutaining, so educating and entertaining.
Making notes while jumping back to the mic at the same time. But yeah, I really like that. Have fun is the kind of vibe I get from you, Blair.
Yeah, like don't be boring. Like you're not a textbook. You're not boring. You're not standing in front of a lecture hall at university. Like, don't just be pumping out shit. Stuff. I think. Here's like a loonie, a Canadian dollar for the jar. Yeah. But I think what's really sometimes I think is something hilarious, or I think is hilarious, and I just put a GIF up and what I'm thinking about, and those perform well. And it's about how well, you guys are all dudes, so none of you are gonna get this, but you women out there will know. And it's gonna get a little intimate, but women, girls and friends usually sync their periods because they spend all their time together. And I was just joking that you're an adult when all your girlfriends sync their garbage days together and you get excited about it. Because I have a thread with friends all around the world and we all have the same garbage day. And I was like, oh my God, we just got way too excited about it. And I made a tweet about it, and a lot of people liked it because it's relatable. Yeah. Being a grown-up, that's what you get excited about is garbage day.
Yeah, I think being relatable is a very good point as well, isn't it? Just be yourself, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really great. It's easy for you to say, by the way. Don't be boring. Some of us are, including myself.
You're boring.
Well, no, I'm. Oh, perhaps not, but I don't know. It depends who you ask. But yeah, being yourself, I think is such, and being fun, having fun with it is not trying to please anyone. I like your
and being real, being real. I don't know if anyone has sleep apnea, but I think I do. And I'm getting tested for sleep apnea. And I was documenting it on Instagram, and I got a message, I had my nose prongs in and a test. And I wrote, my husband's definitely not turned on right now. And, people are like, that's hilarious that you're so real. I don't do my hair and makeup before I show up on social media. I show up as me. This is my reality show. Welcome to Blairland.
Yeah. Love it.
So
Love it. We've got loads of questions coming in, so we'll please don't go anywhere. Stay with us, and I'm sure Lewis and AJ will keep you entertained. So we'll come back to you in a moment there. Thank you for that. That was awesome.
Thank
Lewis,
you.
you're up with your fresh tan.
Hi, everybody.
Good to see you. Why don't you share with everybody your story?
Just before I go on, it's very interesting. Blair said about the sleeping thing, right? This is how weird this is. I had a dream. I had a nap earlier on. I'm very jet lagged. I had a dream that I was snoring in my dream, and I was Googling how to stop snoring in my dream, but I couldn't stop. When I woke up, I was like, oh, I don't snore. Because I was walking in my dream and snoring as I was walking, and I was Googling in the dream. How weird is that?
Maybe you just like knew you were hanging out with me and that I might have sleep apnea.
I was dream researching how to get over it. Anyway, sorry, it's just weird.
Plus, by the way, what is also weird is I had a dream about I couldn't stop Googling the word purpose. I'm like, get over it. You know, like, I kept Googling it. So maybe we all had a similar dream at the same time. I don't know what it means.
It's like technology is becoming a part of us now. It's actually infiltrating my dreams. Hi, everyone. My name is Lewis. I am a weird marketer. I'm a very abnormal marketer by my nature. I'm just a bit of a strange one. I have come through the ranks of a traditional marketing person. I went and studied it. I did a master's degree in it, worked in the industry for 10 years, went to agency and stuff like that. Before I started my own business. Now, I actually started my business because of COVID, which is a wanker. I had a travel company I was supposed to be launching. And unfortunately, travel kind of stopped, and I actually lost my job. I was a director for a marketing agency in Manchester. They went bust immediately. Great job, guys. So I had no other choice but start my own marketing agency to survive, really. And, you know, the aim of the game was stop the bailiffs taking the car. So far, they haven't. I mean, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it might. And I've been doing my own thing for 2 years now, hence why I have a golden shimmer, because I now work from a laptop anywhere I can, and it's great. It really is. But the one thing that I have been learning in the last couple of years is, you know, I'm getting a lot more in depth with businesses and clients now. You know, I'm going inside the walls of the business on a regular basis. I'm speaking to people from all sorts of walks of life, directors, founders. You know, they're much higher ups where I previously wouldn't have been privy. You know, maybe I was dealing with their marketing manager or something. So actually, I'm learning a lot more about marketing than I ever thought possible. And it's been great. It's given me great insights into business. It's given me great insights into everything, the ways of life, the future of marketing, the future of business. And also, I feel like it's made me a much more rounded person running my own company at the same time as advising other businesses how to improve their marketing strategies. So I have a very unique insight. And yeah, I mean, some people recognize us from The Apprentice. That's when I was in the travel company. That was 2019. And since then, my life has been one hell of a roller coaster.
So Lewis's contacts are in the chat, by the way, folks, if you want to connect to him. And yeah, I mean, the first question I've got for you is, what's the best tips for building a following on Twitter?
Did you say tips?
Exactly.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was going to say, because tits also works very well on Twitter, I've noticed.
No,
I've been working on
I wouldn't know. Married, not looking. Yeah.
To be honest, pretty much what Blair said, word for word. You're being open, being honest, and being transparent. They're my three main things. Now, this is not just solely Twitter. This is any social media platform. The one thing I've found is that just being open, honest, and transparent works wonders. Now, as a business, you think, how the fudge can I do that? See how I did that? Fudge. How can I do that? Right? Because we're a business. How can we be transparent? How can we be open? Maybe we should show people what's inside our product boxes. Yeah, that's a way of being transparent. But what I mean by that is getting people inside the walls of your business, showing the real faces, the real motivations behind what you do, why you do what you do, showing people, you know, your day to day. You know, today some knobhead put tea or coffee in the wrong cup, or I don't know, whatever. Just bring people into your business, show them what you're all about. I personally grew my following more when I appeared on a TV show. I'm not saying you have to go on Naked Attraction. It would help, by the way. But you know, for me, I think to understand why that helped me, I think just taking opportunities, right? So trying to take opportunities to do different things and be a part of things like this, for example. I'll try and say yes to everything. On Monday, I'm involved in a music video, like, because some guy messaged me and said, hey, we need a guy for a music video. I was like, count me in. So I always try and say yes to opportunities. And as a business owners, especially if you're a startup or you're a small business, trying to collaborate on as many different things as possible, getting involved and saying yes to opportunities will always lead somewhere interesting. Even if it's negative, it's going to help build your following, you know? So that my second tip, so first one's open, honest, transparent. The second one is take part in as many different things as possible. Be open to the world and collaborating on different things and being, I don't know, just available to join different things that may grow your following and may help people interact with you as a person, but also what your business is all about. I was doing a bit of research earlier about what type of content now works best on Twitter, because as Blair said, the algorithms are always changing, right? So there is no one size fits all. There is no magic bullet. I personally try not to get too caught up in this bollocks, but it turns out that videos are the least performing type of content, you know. Images perform better than videos, and text performs better than images, and text with links performs better than text alone. So there you go. Should you care too much about it? Probably not. I would say just get creative, be fun, join topical conversations. Don't be afraid to call someone out if they're being a prick. All that sort of stuff is interesting to people. You know, some of my most viral tweets were because someone was an asshole to me and I just sort of responded in kind. But at the end of the day, I think it's hard for businesses because they think, oh, we can't do those things. But I would say businesses are, you know, real examples of real, usually formed by one person. They have motivations, they have a rationale behind them, they have their own core values of what they stand for, and I should be able to tell when I enter any of your feeds and any of your digital touch points what your business stands for, who you are as a person, and why am I going to like you. If you stand for nothing, yeah, it's fine, sit on the fence, you'll stand for nothing, right? But I believe that you should stand for something, even if it means like tweeting SeaWorld saying, hey, you guys are a bunch of pricks because your business is a vegan brand. That would be, to me, an interesting brand that I would follow and engage with. And sorry, I just rambled on a bit there, but that's my tips for growing your following.
Yeah, not a ramble at all. Really, really fascinating. I'm going to say, I think this will be the first ever webinar on tips on Twitter, suggesting people go on naked attraction as part of that process of getting a good Twitter following. So I think we're going to go down in history as the best webinar ever. So yeah, that was a good tip.
I do also agree people should tweet SeaWorld and call them pricks, but that's just my opinion. Yeah.
True. And for people that might be listening to this later on YouTube and stuff, and you're in America and you're wondering what naked attraction is, then go Google it. You'll never regret it. So a really interesting subject that we all love talking about, hashtags. What's your view on hashtags?
So this sort of hashtag, I was thinking about this today when I was thinking about, we're going to talk about Twitter. So hashtags. Okay, first things first. Let's not do the whole cheesy thing where you try and create a company hashtag and you think everyone's going to use it and they're going to share it, because it doesn't work, right? Sure, hashtag your brand occasionally, that's fine. But to be honest, you know, hashtagging, I don't know, sexy chocolate or whatever is not probably going to get much attention. However, occasionally you can come up with a genius idea. So let's talk about Susan Boyle for a second. Susan Boyle, world-renowned sex symbol and X Factor finalist. I think she won, actually. Sorry, X Factor winner. So Susan was launching a new album on Twitter. The tweet was rah, 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 hashtag Susan album party. Now, if you read it quickly, it would say Sue's anal bum party. Now, that tweet, that hashtag did work, went viral for miles. Everyone loved it. Sue's anal bum party, I'll be there, count me in. So actually, sometimes creating hashtags in a clever way do work. Now, my question to you would be, was that mistake on purpose for virality? I'm not saying that mistakes are always a good idea or intended mistakes, but marketing people are sometimes very clever. When you do something wrong, it goes viral. So my first tip with hashtags would be, you know, sometimes making a mistake and going, oh, what a faux pas, what an accident, can work very well for virality, but also try not to be just a cheesy person. I'm not swear, but yeah, try not to be too cheesy. Try not to force people to use them. And that leads me to the next section, which is, I guess, trying to keep them to a minimum, right? Because yeah, a couple of hashtags is cool. Overkill, with loads of hashtags doesn't really work. I mean, it's better to do them rather than not do them at all. Like, it's better to have tweets scheduled with hashtags than not have them at all, I guess. Without tweets, it's worse than having loads of hashtags. But if you're actually using it quite regularly and you've got it on your phone and you're a business owner, I would say try and keep them to a minimum, and trying to use ones that are part of topics and trending conversations, looking at the explore page, as Blair mentioned, having a look at what people are talking about. Who are they slagging off today? You know, is Putin getting roasted for something else? And how can you join in with that? How can you bring that to your audience? And what topics are trending that are going to be relevant to your target audience as well? What are they going to be interested in? That's kind of what I would be. I would look at what's happening in the world and using it, because at the end of the day, that's what Twitter's about, right? Twitter is very much a conversation platform. It's very much a joining and everyone sharing their own thoughts and opinions. Everyone's talking from their own point of authority. So if your business is very strong on a point, as we talk about SeaWorld, and you're a vegan brand, well, I would be all over them conversations about how, okay, here's an example. If I tweeted anything about vegan, Peter always reply within seconds. I think I tweeted something like, how do you know a vegan is a vegan? Because they tell you. And Peter are all off my ass in seconds. And that shows they're using it very well, because they're being a part of every single conversation that's relevant to their brand, and they're showcasing their core values. And there's a message there. It says, do you agree that radical authenticity? And do I agree with it? I don't agree with radical anything, by the way. If someone called me a radical in any sense, I'm going to assume that there's a bad thing happening. But what I will say is, if you're trying to be authentic and you're trying too hard, you're going to look like a prick. So just be yourself. I mean, okay, have you ever tried to focus, right? You're walking down the street and someone's walking behind you and you start getting a bit self-conscious, and you start to concentrate on your walk, and you find you start walking like almost like this, and you can't, you don't understand what's going on because you're trying too hard to focus on being something that you do naturally. So I would say not radical authenticity, I would say natural authenticity. Or it's not very hard to say, you know, oh, I fucking hate Marmite. But a lot of businesses won't do that. They sit on the fence because they're afraid of hurting someone's feelings. If you know your target audience and you know who you're speaking to and what they believe in, and your brand aligns with their core values, then you know your brand, if you're a vegan brand, hates people, the fact that Shimmy was locked up in SeaWorld. So therefore, if I call SeaWorld a wanker, they'll all go, wait, it's me being authentic but my brand being authentic. What does my brand stand for? So before you do anything, you need to understand what your brand is all about. What your customers believe in, and why they are engaging with your business at all. Why are they aligning themselves with your behaviors? Once you understand that and you understand their core values and what they stand for, I can call SeaWorld pricks because my business is aligned with that. So yeah, so that's what I meant by authenticity. I don't mean radical. I don't mean just going out there going, oh my God, had the biggest poop today. Like that's ridiculous. It's just trying too hard. It's when you walk funny when someone's walking behind you.
Totally.
By the way, my examples are really weird, but they work, right?
It works, and it's stuck in my mind forever. And SeaWorld are pricks, so yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Hammering that home today.
Yeah, and I love the fact that we started talking about hashtags, and I think we ended up talking about global strategy, brand strategy. And like totally, which is interesting, because I think when people are trying to get one channel right, like Twitter, a lot of people here listening about Twitter, in reality, you've got to make sure your base is right first, right? That brand value, structure, you know, what you stand for as a person, if it's a personal brand or a company, right?
Look, this is the bottom line of any business. I'm having this issue right now with a client based in America, and they've got some guys based in Spain, and the issue we're having is they're like, right, we need to do this campaign. We've got this campaign going. We're going on this trip to the Middle East. I'm like, amazing. All this sounds great. And like, what are you going to do to help us? I was like, what I'm going to do is we're going to sit down. We're going to hammer out our goals. We're going to understand our target audience. We're going to understand how each and every channel and each and every avenue we utilize benefits those goals. And they're like, well, that sounds boring. I'm like, well, what's the fucking point in doing anything else? Because I'm not one for pissing in the wind. Tried it. Doesn't really work that well. So to be honest, why would my business do that? Why? Because at the end of the day, you're just literally shooting and hoping to hit something at that point. So yeah, all these things are great, but how is that aligning with my strategy? You understand your strategy, your business, what the business stands for, your target goals and all that sort of stuff. You can look at all the channels and how they align with that. You can look at all the tactics that you're going to use around those channels as well. And I think in pictures. So I always start with like, you know, end goal, channels, tactics coming off the back of that. And then again, underpinning all of that is the overarching aim of the business, but also who are we speaking to? Who are our customers? What do they care about? Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to generate and get, that's what underpins everything. Doesn't matter what channel it is, doesn't matter what strategy you have in place. It's like your customers underpin everything, like though what they believe in, what their core values, what are your core values, why are they engaged with your brand, why are they buying from you. There's a reason why people buy free range eggs, which don't exist right now for some reason, at twice the price of
chickens aren't free, mate. That's why.
Well, it's because there's like
they exist in Canada. They exist in Canada.
There's a bird flu outbreak.
Not allowed to import them right now. Too expensive.
Well, in the UK, there's a bird flu outbreak. So right now they've had to remove free range off all the labels because technically they're not free range because they're running around a hen house.
We might be going off the subject. I might be wrong. This might lead back round to some Twitter viral campaign we can give to the listeners, but I am missing free range eggs. That's sad. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's kind of it, really.
No, it's great. Just trying to make notes there, and I didn't make any because I was too busy enjoying it. And so that's great. That means I'm learning, I think. So one final thing before we move to AJ, who looks like he's got the lights off, which is fine. Power in England right now is expensive, so we've got to have the lights off. Twitter ads. See, I know you've invested in infrastructure, Lewis. You see. Anyway, Twitter ads. What do you think? Is this something people should entertain? And don't forget, people, you can ask questions not about free range eggs. You can ask questions about Twitter in the comments.
So right, I would say that any type of advertising, if well thought through and if it makes sense to your business, is good, right? Because it's going to extend the reach. Let's just put it as it is. Every social platform are trying to take all of my money. That's what they're trying to do. And as a result, they're restricting everything in the hope that you'll pay to reach new people. When you first start a platform, let's take TikTok. It's really good, loads of reach. Oh, one day it just disappears, and you have to pay to play. Twitter never really went that obvious with it. That I think they tried to retain some of that organic essence. Facebook and Instagram just shit on everyone. But I would say Twitter still does have the capability to reach people organically, and it has that ability, but you can pay to play and you can extend your reach. So if you can ask me if they're worth it, then yeah, if you have budget and it makes sense. The second thing I will say is that most marketing people, including myself, always overlook Twitter ads. Same as LinkedIn ads, we do it for the same reason, because it's expensive. And why is it expensive? Well, because again, they're trying to focus on the organic and not just driving people through advertisement. Therefore, they need to make more money off it because it's not worth it for them. So that's what it makes sense to me, right? So if I overlook it, most of my business and clients overlook it, most people I speak to don't even consider it. Would that mean that there's probably an opportunity in the market for it? Well, then I would say, yeah, right? Because if everyone's overlooking something, chances are there's a huge gap to take advantage of it. So yeah, it costs more money. And yeah, it isn't used by everyone widely. But if it makes sense to your business, you have a good engagement rate anyway, and you've got, your strong proposition, your strong brand values, you've got great people that are engaging, then I would only imagine that if you were to spend money on advertisement, it's only going to increase that. So this is me sitting on the fence a little bit saying, I don't personally recommend Twitter ads. I don't personally use Twitter ads. I actually use it for the organic value. However, I know that if you were to use them and it made sense to your business, then I would say go for it. I think there's like 4 or 5 different types of ads. They've got the video, they've got the takeover, hashtag takeover thing. They've got the pre-roll. There's all sorts of different types. So again, it would all depend on what content you're putting out there, what your customers engage with, what types of things you're going to be providing, what value you're going to be providing. It comes down to a lot of the marketing questions needs to be answered first. But the bottom line is, if it makes sense to your business, go for it, right? Because I can't see a negative in running advertisements ever. It's just budget and does it make sense?
I think it's good advice. I used to own an agency, for those that don't know, and I sold it a few years back to PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I'm out of the industry, it's direct. But one of the things I noticed on the ads was a bit like you were saying earlier, Lewis, if you run an ad and don't know your target, it will fail and will be a waste of money. But if you know, like you said, if once you've got, on the organic side, you've clearly defined who you're talking to and why you're talking to them, what your values are, your organic will do better, but so will your ads. Mm-hmm. So they're actually linked, and they both have different strengths and weaknesses. And it's very good insight. So thank you, Lewis. Stick around, please. We've got a question about chickens already in the comments, and I need you to help with that in a minute. But stick around, mate. Thanks. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. AJ, last but not least. Sorry, I picked on you with the light, my friend, but welcome. Please tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm AJ. I'm now working in Web3. I run an agency consultancy company. We service anyone and everyone looking at Web3 basically. So you could have an existing project or you have an existing business that's looking at the space. Prior to that, I've worked in music marketing and had my own companies there, and was in the entertainment industry for about 12 years on top of that, 15 years. I'm not trying to give away my age too much, staying dynamic. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Not as exciting as Blair and Lewis, but hey, some of us are boring, right, Simon?
You're talking about, you just have a top 5 hit in Japan or something. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You're anyway, that might be another story. How to get in the top 5 in Japan. All right, if you want to join that webinar, then sign up to our mailing list. But AJ, look, I know you do a lot of stuff in Twitter Spaces. Web3 and the whole NFT movement is all focused on Twitter. So let's start off by asking the big question, like Twitter Spaces. What's your view on Twitter Spaces and how people can leverage that kind of, I guess, new tool coming out of
Twitter? I think, well, firstly, I'd like to touch on Twitter broadly, because for me, it's the only tool that you can use to reverse engineer your brand voice and your business voice, right? You go to Instagram, you go to TikTok. I'm not reading any context of what people actually think about things, right? I'm seeing videos a lot of the time, seeing images. But you go to Twitter and you type in a subject, you will find people's opinions of it. And for me, that is the biggest tool that Twitter has to offer when you are trying to think about what's the voice of my brand, what's the voice of my personal brand, how do I communicate the things that I really believe in and that my brand can believe in and can stand for, et cetera, et cetera. And it's really the only social media that provides this, in my opinion. Someone else might have another one, but for me, this is the one that worked the best. Twitter Spaces itself, I love it because we talked about the Playboy example over the weekend, right? It allows you to attach a real world voice to your business or your brand, and also to yourself personally. So in Web3, there's a lot of anonymity, and Twitter Spaces provides you with an audience. So it's a great marketing tool in that respect, that are all looking for the same things. There's a community there that are all interested in the things that you are interested in, and it's your chance to take the mic, if you will, excuse the pun, of Twitter Spaces, and tell the world what's going on with you and your opinion about the space within a Twitter space. So yeah, I like them. I think it's they're easier to do when you've grown a reputation in that space, right? But I guess that's the same with anything and everything.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Twitter Spaces is basically Clubhouse. And if you don't know what Clubhouse is, then I don't know what to say. But basically, Twitter Spaces ultimately is designed to be a voice-activated ecosystem. And yeah, like AJ is saying, it's jump in. And what AJ was just referring to is I met AJ in the real world recently. On Sunday, we had lunch together, and there was an example of a Playboy who has done an NFT project, and they actually hired someone to be the voice of Playboy and go into Twitter Spaces and explain the project. And I think that was quite smart, actually. Instead of most brands are not present in these ecosystems. Most of the time, it's an individual, not a company, which is a real opportunity, right? I mean, that means if you're an individual, you can compete with big companies now and communicate to thousands of people in these spaces in ways companies can't. But some companies are starting to break through, but it's not as easy if you as an individual go and take those spaces and control them. You'll probably beat big corporates. If you're selling the same product, you'll have a voice they don't have. But yeah, we were just talking about that at the weekend. So what do you think as far as like a strategy is concerned on promoting your business? Is there anything that you see that stands out, best practice?
Yeah, I think a lot of this has already been said, but for me, it's about tying yourself in with the community and building that community based on what's happening in the scene. So we're talking about topical conversations. Being first to these things is actually a massive advantage. Obviously, a lot of people don't have the entire day to sit on Twitter in case something pops off and you can be first to the trend, right? But if you're engaging with the community in the right way and you're following the right people and they're engaging with you, it tends to be the algorithm that you see their stuff first, right? And those conversations seem to go pretty viral, and the more conversations that happen and comments and underneath and creating this kind of thread very, very quickly means that that's the thread that people go to for that topic, because it ends up in the top list as opposed to the latest list, and that's where you need to be in this top list.
Yeah, I think this is something that isn't talked about enough when it comes to Twitter at the moment, actually, is building a community within Twitter. Yeah. So, and I think that's what Twitter Spaces allows you to do. But generally, that is a real opportunity. You follow people that have similar interests to you, which I know we then get caught in an algorithmic bubble. But when we're talking about promoting your business, there'll be people that are vegans and there are people that aren't. It's probably going to be a lot harder if you're following a bunch of people that aren't vegans to then sell them your product if you're a vegan brand, right? So you're probably better off being in the community spaces where veganism is accepted, right? So I think building communities isn't talked about much, but I know that's something you're really into. Is there any tips on building a community that you think are worth sharing?
Yeah, I think Blair said it earlier on. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it was you, Lewis, but it's all about transparency and honesty. At the end of the day, I think a lot of people understand that everyone has a different point of view, but it's about saying, okay, this is what I think based on this, but and these are my reasons for it, and here's my experience, etc., and it allows for this conversation. And community isn't about everyone agreeing on one thing, right? It's about everyone coming together to find the best solution. So in the business that I'm in, obviously that works. When it comes to like a brand or a product, perhaps that would be very slightly different or majorly different, right? But for me, it's definitely about creating a conversation that engages an audience. And if you can't engage an audience, it's probably because you're not talking the way your audience talks. So Lewis mentioned it earlier on, who are you actually selling to? Who is your audience? And actually, you as a brand have to develop a voice that is the same as theirs. And if you can't do that, then you won't get engagement. And if you don't get engagement, your algorithm will suck. If your algorithm sucks, then, well, bye-bye Twitter, right?
And how do you get verified? This is a question I've been asked a lot.
Well, for me, shameless plug, I did some stuff with MTV. I think it was MTV back in the day, and that's how that happened. But it wasn't. And to be honest, actually, and here's a little gem for you with regards to Twitter. In what I do, again, I'm saying that because I'm conscious a lot of people watching this might be looking at it from a product point, or they want to sell an actual product or whatever it might be on Twitter. So we are a service-based business. From what I do, actually, the tick doesn't really do a lot necessarily. And in the industry that I'm in, sometimes it can be a deterrent. So take that for what you will. I think it's more about how valid is someone's opinion, how well can you communicate what you have to say in under 300 characters, and how on topic are you, and how on trend are you with how people see things, and can you justify your point of view and create a conversation around it, less than he's got a tick. I don't think people really care that much anymore.
Lewis, you got something to say? I can hear the vibe. Go ahead.
Tell them about the secret part of Twitter that opens when you get a verification.
Oh, are we allowed to talk about that?
Is there a secret part? Maybe I don't know.
It's all right. So when Twitter, I'll show you. When you get a verified account, bear in mind, I didn't give a toss about my thing either. But when it came because of Facebook and Instagram. But look, so you have a feed. You see this?
Oh yeah, the other
section. So you have a verified one, so you can see when people interact with you from verified accounts, and it's separate. And the messaging as well. I won't show messages because they're pretty dodgy. But it's just people sending endless.
You do share your messages in fairness on social media, and you were
actually you do. I don't know how to say that.
And I did enjoy that because I used to live there, so I know what that's like.
But so it actually opens up a secret part of a feed. So if you are a business, so for me it's actually good, because if I want to slag off a business, for example, let's say Qatar Airways recently maybe lost my AirPods and stole them. I tweet at them, and they can see that. On their verified messages, it comes up on a separate feed, so then they know that I'm really pissed off. So I only use it for complaining. But if I was going to use it for business, it's actually handy, because you can actually get into someone a lot easier. If I message, at Tesco, this marketing this whatever shit, someone would see it and probably call me out on it, which is great, because then they go, oh, it's that guy. So it is actually handy for business. Can you get it? Again, it's very interesting right now. They're not actually accepting verifications. However, there's a secret underground world of verification still happening, where you have this secret Google document. I don't know if I'm going to lose my tick for this, but you get a secret Google document sent to you, and you fill it in, and then it appears in your profile. So there's an unofficial verification process still happening, but it's very like mafia based.
Yeah, a little hack that I got verified. I basically trademarked my name. So and then you submit it to Twitter, and if you've got a trademark on something, then they'll verify you. So everyone should also personally trademark their name. On TikTok, which I have over 400,000 followers on, I actually originally someone took my name, so squatted it, and because I got the trademark, I submitted that to TikTok, and they gave me my name back. And so someone woke up the next day thinking, oh, I've still got Simon Squibb's TikTok, and then it was taken off them and given to me, and all because I trademarked my name. So it's a little tip there. Don't need to go to the underground Google guys that you're just mentioning there, Lewis. There might be another way to do it, which is
what if their name was Simon Squibb as well, and you just taking their TikTok account?
I was just thinking that some poor guy called Simon Squibb is now really upset, and
there is one other Simon Squibb. It could have been him.
TikTok.
Yeah, but he's snowboarding most of the time, that other Simon Squibb, and I'm working my butt out every day trying to help people.
You basically took a child's TikTok down, is what we're saying.
No, he's not quite. He's 19. He's not a child. I don't think technically. So he might.
So basically, the lesson is trademark your name and steal your name back from children.
Exactly.
That's what I'm hearing. Bullying's okay in your world, apparently. That's what you said.
I just want to put it out. I have a lot of followers on social media, and I have no blue ticks. Right. It's my dream to have a blue tick, and it'll happen. But the reason I want it is because it's cultivation of clout. Like, it's just a clout thing. Yeah. I'm still going to offer the same services. I'm probably still going to make the same amount. Well, I'm always working at making more money, but like, there's not like, beside a magic like feed on Twitter, like, I don't think you should be discouraged to not have the blue tick. Like, I have a multiple 6-figure business, and I've never had a blue tick. So
I think that's a big testament to your ability to deliver value, because sometimes the blue tick can be a substitute for value.
I think it definitely used to be with Twitter. Like, it used to be the fact that, like, if you had a verified Twitter account, every brand wanted to gift you everything, and now it's not really like that. Maybe it's different in other industries, but in what I do, no one cares.
I would say for me, the reason I did it. So I went on a mission. So this is what happened, right? I went on a TV show, and everyone else started getting blue ticks, Instagram, their Twitter accounts. And I was like, why have I not got one? And so some person messaged me randomly and was like, how can you call yourself a marketing person if all your friends get blue ticks and you don't? So I was like, oh, right. And I went to work on researching everything, reaching out to every PR person, every single company I could think of, and finding out why I didn't get one. And then before I finished, I've now got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. The set. You can't get any more. And I'm happy with that. But does it mean anything? No, nothing at all. It was just someone told me that I was a shit marketing person, so I had to prove a point.
And that's so funny because, like, I still have that self-consciousness as a marketing expert, because I don't have the blue tick, but then I have to remember, like, I'm not a business celebrity yet. Maybe I'm maybe a C-list business celebrity. Like, I don't, but like the blue tick is coming. But it's so funny because it's totally a vanity thing. It's nothing. There's nothing more than that. I'm not an influencer. I don't get paid to post about products. I often turn that work down because I don't want to be told what to do. Like, do not tell me what to do, because I'm not going to do it. And so for me, it's just like, it's a social media lipstick. Yeah. But I want it, and I'm going to get it. But it's funny. I'm interested. Sorry, Simon, I'm taking over your job. Lewis, did you end up with a PR agency to have you do it, or did you do it on your own?
So what I did was LinkedIn will always be my favorite platform. Sorry guys, Twitter talk, I know, but like LinkedIn's my favorite because it's where I can be most real. I went digging. I must have, if someone says to you, right, figure this out, right? It was more that someone called me a shit marketing person. I was like, fuck you, guy. Like, watch this. So anyway, so I messaged anyone that works at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like, I started DMing PR agencies, management companies. I didn't have anyone help me. I wanted to know the facts. I then read Google Forums, and before, it turns out this is how it works, right? Someone knows someone who knows someone who knows someone, and then word gets back, and then a Google document from a Twitter person appears in your inbox, and you fill it out. So that sort of stuff happened quite often. Same with Instagram. Like, I ended up just DMing the guy who happened to be the team leader who gave out the Instagram and Facebook verifications. Now, obviously, you can't just do that. You need to have you have to meet their criteria. So I made sure first I did that. before I went on a mission. But I think TV shows help massively. Now, what happens most of the time is these TV people that you see on there, they actually get it sorted out by the PR company that looks after the show. Now, The Apprentice is like dinosaur of a program, so those guys don't understand social media yet, so they don't help you at all. However, you start asking people questions, and they know someone who knows someone who knows someone. Literally, just because someone told me I couldn't do something, that was literally my only reason, rationale. And does it mean anything? Like I said, no. Does it help? No. My Twitter account stinks at the moment. It's not getting much engagement. In fact, the one that's not verified, LinkedIn, is the one that does best. So yeah, I would say, if you see it as a personal challenge, it's fun if it's that way. But I just saw it as a challenge. Some guy was like, "You're shit," and I was like, watch this. But it doesn't mean anything at all. It doesn't particularly help with engagement either.
I think it's a good metaphor for just business in general, isn't it? Push through. Don't let these things that people hold you back stop you from getting to the result you want. And almost, I would actually say, Blair, these days, not having a blue tick and being successful on social media, I go the other way and say, almost like be the evangelist for not having a blue tick and say, look what you can do. Look, if you just bring value. Yeah. And actually, most people aren't doing that. They might have a blue tick. It doesn't matter, right? I think you could actually be the anti-blue tick.
I'd take the multi-million-pound company. If you want to swap, I'll give you my Instagram account and I'll take your business.
Yeah, I think that's a fair swap. That would be Blair will never take that in a million years, which shows you the value of blue tick. But I think I'd actually lean into it at this point. I'd be like, I don't want a blue tick because I want to show you that you can build it without it. And almost I've said no to the blue tick many times.
I think for me, it's just I've always kind of wanted it, so I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
But when the time is right.
If anyone's interested, I was going to say quickly, press. PR and press, as it all comes down to press and PR, because the idea behind the verification is that people are going to try and copy you, and they do. Now, TV shows, obviously, it's more important because people see it there and then they start to pretend to be you. It happened a lot for me. But press pieces, press articles, PR, all that sort of stuff. You do as much as that as possible, and then you have a case to say, look, I'm in all these featured articles here, and I'm worried that now people are going to start to pretend to be me. And that's, it does happen.
But what you're saying is really important. So my background, remember, is in publicity and PR. Regardless if you want a blue tick or not, if you want to be a thought leader and be seen as a leader or authority on your niche topic, you want to get publicity, you want press, and then you use places like Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn to share that publications like Forbes, Fast Company, or the local radio station are sharing your information and your knowledge. Maybe that's a whole nother panel, but publicity is so important, whether you want a blue tick or not.
Right now, I've reached out to a company that does PR and stuff. We're bringing that into what we do, because I don't want to do it because it's not my specialism, but I want to partner with someone so I can offer it as a client to my clients, and they're helping me with my personal stuff. They sent me earlier on Daily Express needed someone's talk on this topic, which was actually apprentice based actually. But these things have been passing me by for all these years. I didn't even know how important it was.
Back to you saying yes, say yes.
I did.
You guys found I'm on this panel and I'm in Canada and I don't know how you came across me, but I said yes. This is considered publicity too. You guys promoted the bleep out of us. See what I did there? I censored myself.
Bleep yourself. Very good. Thank you. That saved our editor job some work later. He'll be very grateful.
Yeah, you want to have visibility, and that all comes back to social media is where you peacock. I call it peacocking. Male peacocks put their feathers out and they shimmy them to attract mates. That's what you do on social media. You get publicity wins, you speak at events, you share it on social media, you're showing what you're capable of, and that attracts more opportunities and attracts more followers and essentially attracts more money and maybe a blue tick. But publicity and exposure is so important, and it's always better to have someone else talk about you than you talk about you, right?
Totally. We've got now we can take some questions. If anyone wants to raise their hand and come up and say hello to the panelists and ask a question, you are welcome. I've got a couple of questions in the Q&A section, which I'll go to in a second. One final thing I'll say on the blue tick, it doesn't always come with benefits. So I, for example, on the Purposeful project, got the Purposeful project a blue tick on TikTok. And every time we post, someone says something like, why has this channel got a blue tick? Almost like an insult to us, but we have to deal with these insults that we shouldn't have a blue tick because who are we? We're no one famous yet. Why have we got a blue tick? So don't think having a blue tick is always the best thing to have in the world. Quickly before I move to some people now coming up to ask a question, We Make Impact asked, any tips for Twitter Spaces promoting and or hosting? So I've hosted quite a few Twitter Spaces, so I can always answer this, but anyone want to jump in with any thoughts on Twitter Spaces? AJ, Lewis, do you want to say anything?
Well, I thought, well, sorry, what was the question? I was reading an article on Twitter actually as we were talking there. Sorry, I zoned out. It was travel hacks, and I was like, oh, I do all them, and then I lost it. Sorry, I'm back.
It happens. Don't worry, mate. Don't worry. It's fine. So just do you use Twitter Spaces? Have you dived into that world much?
So I used Clubhouse like loads when it happened, and then what happened was it became a massive circle jerk where everyone just wanks themselves off. So I decided I wasn't going to be part of that. That was the worst thing. And then it got invaded by those what they called those multi-level marketing, non-scammy, I'll take all your money companies. And
I just deal right now packages. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I just thought, shoot me in the face. So I left that. Anyway, Twitter Spaces appeared, and I was like, oh, Twitter Spaces, this is interesting. And I have been dipping into it. I'm just nervous. I don't want to overinvest my time in something because, yeah, if it takes a lot of time to listen. It's very hard to listen to anything else. Obviously, when you're talking, I can seem to learn about travel. But it's very hard to listen to the Clubhouse and not engage with it and not be like driving's easy, but anything else is hard. So it takes a lot of time. So I don't invest that time into a platform that's just going to be invaded by people trying to sell me juice cleansing, shit yourself diets, or clonic face wipes. I don't know if that's the thing, but the point is, my thoughts are it would be amazing. I love the idea of it, but there's just too many bellends willing to ruin everything for everyone.
Yeah, it's a positive message, and I'll go with the negative message, which is the other way to look at it is that to fight the evil you have to be in the arena. So maybe starting your own Twitter Spaces that isn't selling whatever that was you were just suggesting. I can't even say it. So I think I have to imagine what that actually means by saying it. So I'm not going to say it.
I would know. I think you start with a face and then I wouldn't be around because that's never going to end well.
I think I could get. Yeah. So I have COVID. Can we be nice on the host and make this simpler for me? Any chance? Yeah, so I think, but I would do Twitter Spaces. I would go and just host an event and don't be an idiot and create spaces that actually bring value to people. And when I first did Twitter Spaces, 2 people turned up. 6 months later, unbelievably, 3 people turned up. So if you work hard, anything can happen. And yeah, I've actually got a really famous person who came on my Twitter Space. It's going to name drop, but it's not the appropriate time. But yeah, I definitely think you should go and host events by just opening up a space and trying it. But I think what Lewis is saying, because he says everything with really interesting insights with a bit of jest there. It's true. Try to bring value. Don't go sell bullshit and waste people's time, because it will not be good for you long term. Don't waste your time by not actually bringing value to people in any room you host.
I've been in two Twitter Spaces listening, and one of them had Carol Baskin in it.
Right.
And I was like, what? Listening to the Baskinator talk. She was chatting bollocks and decided to sell loads of crap, but that wasn't the point. I was listening to Carol Baskin directly talk. That was quite interesting. So it's still, I think it's so new, still quite fresh that, big names drop in there occasionally.
Well, that's the other thing, yeah. And I've ended up personally speaking to quite big names, because I think not that many people are in the room and they're trying it out. And so, yeah, you've got to. No, I don't think it's appropriate.
Stop avoiding it. Name drop.
No. I don't. I think. I actually my thing is not to name drop. That's kind of one of my things in life. Otherwise, I feel like I end up being one of those people that's permanently dropping all the people I know into conversations. And if I start, I'll never stop. But we got someone up on stage who wants to ask a question. Kip, are you there? Would you like to unmic and say hello?
Tell me if I'm on mic. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, yeah. What's your question for the panelists?
So my question is this, is I want to get back to one thing. I've noticed, like I try to look at the meta stuff, having been away from social media for 30 years and now rejoining it and looking at it, I try to look at what's the meta pattern. And there's a pattern that I want to say to panelists in all the best way. Don't take this wrong. But all of you are saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Now, my question is for someone who is not trying to build a brand about themselves, but is actually doing problem solving. In other words, I've solved affordable housing in the United States. That's a bold claim, but I've finally done it after many years. And I'm outwardly focused. Is Twitter the right place? Because I got on Twitter for exactly 6 minutes. And then I was like, God, these people are assholes. I cannot be here. There's too much of this going on. And I get that some of the panelists are like, hey, a little controversy, a little mixing it up serves to build your brand. But what if you're outwardly focusing? No, I'm just trying to solve that.
Yeah.
Any advice on that? That's it.
I mean, this is really good because I actively feel the same as you. I don't know what I've said that's made you feel like I'm looking at me, but interesting perspective. I'm in the same part. So very, very different solutions to different problems, right? But definitely the only way to tackle this type of thing, in my experience, I'm sure there's others, and I see Blair is itching to speak as well, is to get involved in the conversation that is currently there. So it's not necessarily about being contradictory, right? It's about going to that conversation with the value that you can bring to it, rather than just getting involved for the sake of getting involved. So if there's 100% conversations about this all over Twitter, right? So it's about, how do I get there first so that people can engage with what I'm saying, and then they will see what you're saying, right? And then they will follow you if they relate to it, or maybe they don't relate to it and they'll still follow you. So it's not about look at me, but it's, you know, if you need attention on your business or your message, the only way to do that is to engage in the conversation and then create another one. You know, when you have enough people there that are following you because of the engagement you've had in that conversation, then you can create your own conversation. And I think that's also important. So I do get it. I see social media in many ways exactly the same as you. And I open up Instagram and I think, not today, you know, just not for me today. But to build something, to build a conversation, I do think you need to be part of that conversation initially. And whether you are trying to be controversial or trying to solve a problem, the case in point is get involved. Without being involved, then, you know, you're not part of the game, right?
Great answer.
I was just gonna add, well, that is a great answer. I was just gonna say, I'm not sure where you are on social media, but what I like to tell the people I work with is not to spray and pray. Like, if you're already on a social media network, figure out how to use that for your business. Once you've mastered that, add something else in. Once you've mastered that, add it in. But social media takes a lot of time, and starting from scratch takes a lot of time and patience, and it depends on what your message is and where the other people in your space are. So who are you trying to communicate with and get your message out there? Is it investors? Is it people who need that affordable housing? You know, where are those people playing? And be there. And maybe it's Twitter, I don't know, but I just like to, you know, people feel like they need to be absolutely everywhere. So just make sure where you're spending time and resources is where the people are that you need to be communicating with.
I was just doing a bit of research as you were talking. It turns out 99.9% of people on social media are wankers. So don't worry, that's completely normal. I would say two things to add to those guys, and what they said was great. Consistency for me is one that's quite important. Now, consistency, I always say to clients, is they're like, I'm posting this stuff and no one's engaging with it. Rah, 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 cry me a river. Well, actually, most people don't realize that people won't engage with your tweets. They won't engage with your profiles, but they are looking at what you do. For example, let's say you are a software provider. It's boring. Oh, let's take one of my previous clients, cybersecurity. Quite a boring industry. You know, they share topics on things that are happening, cyber warfare, cyber crime, things that are happening in their industry. Rah, rah. People rarely ever retweet it. No one ever likes cyber crime. Like, I mean, can you imagine the guy that actually gets off on cyber crime? He's probably the hacker. So what was interesting is that they're not getting no engagement, but actually their views and the clicks through to their website were increasing. And what we found actually was happening was when they pitched for business, those businesses were going through their social media profiles to see, are they active? Are they real? What sort of value are they offering? And they look at their Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, their website, all that sort of stuff. So actually, it was a digital channel that reflected their business, their behaviors, and it was an extension of themselves. And just because people weren't sharing, liking, and retweeting does not mean they weren't taking advantage of the knowledge they were sharing and also looking at who they were as a business. So actually, likes, and I feel people have got very stingy with likes and then retweets over the years because of advertisements. Are like, oh, I know if I like you, then it's like it's giving you social credibility and all that sort of stuff, and they become more conscious. Like, I remember a time when we put on Facebook profiles our favorite food, and mine still says that In Between Us is my favorite movie. Like, I can't get rid of that shit. But there was a time when we put everything on there. It was like, what are you thinking today? I'd be like, Lewis Ellis is thinking, oh, I'm really hungry, and people will all like that. That's the way of working that has changed. However, and people don't like as much, they don't engage as much, but it's very important to have it. And obviously there is the value. Are you putting out value? Are you sharing what your business is about? Don't just go, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. Share things like the travel company that shared life hacks to improve your travel journeys. And it was things like rolling your towels up, using the aircon to keep away germs and all this sort of stuff that I was reading when Simon was talking. It caught my attention though very quickly because I'm interested in travel. It was relevant, but it came from a business that is obviously providing a travel service. And the idea is, once I've read the article, there's a call to action on there that leads me through to their website and puts me on a path to purchase. Same for you, mate. Share value, share interesting things, share trending topics. Talking about that cybersecurity company recently, I'm getting some blogs written for them about Russia's tactics in cyber warfare, how they're fighting with Ukraine, how they're taking on Ukraine. And then on the reverse side of that, how the rest of the world are now hacking into Russian infrastructure and how they're attacking them via cyber warfare. Two very relevant topics, two very trending topics, two very interesting topics. But it's not saying, hey, buy our cyber security products. It's saying, here's an interesting thing. Are you aware of this? At the end of it, it says, this is how we can stop that. So there's a value first, then asking for something later.
Thank you.
I hope you got some value from that, Kip. Thanks so much for coming up and asking a question. I think that's a wrap, guys. I want to thank you for taking time out to share your knowledge. I saw a quote the other day from a VC who I respect, who said it's easier right now to raise £10 million for your startup than get 10,000 followers on Twitter. So it's not easy building a following. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys. If you do want to see one of the people that I will name drop, I can't help it. Dr. Jordan Peterson. When he first came on Twitter Spaces, I helped him understand how to make it work. And so I actually made a little video about it, which I've just, Tally has just popped into the chat. But the greatest thinker of our time right now needed my help to make Twitter Spaces work. So thought I would name drop in the end. But look, I really appreciate, guys, what you've done today. I just want to recap some of the things I've learned from you, and hopefully with my fuzzy COVID head, this still makes sense. Blair was talking about engagement strategy in place. Make sure you've got one. Repurposing content. I think that's something I know I don't do enough. You post something once and you think, right, well, that clever tweet, I'm never going to put that out again because I've released it once already. And so, posting it again is really good point. And don't be shy to repost stuff that did well in the past. That's why I know AJ's always doing a GM every day. Good morning, everybody. Every day, like you got to reuse that content that has gone viral. Such a good point there from Blair. Talk what you want when you want. Just kind of being yourself is. I love the. I think we're swearing at this point, aren't we? Fuck the algorithm kind of mindset of Blair. I think that's so.
I actually just call it F the algo because it works.
F the algo, yeah. Something about the word fuck that makes it sound even better though. But yes, F the algo. Entertainment and education. I think that whole mix is so true. That point you're making there about making it fun. And Lewis was talking about, of course, being transparent and being yourself. And being open. I really think that's something we do sometimes forget when we're trying to get people to like our tweet. We're trying to get in the minds of those that might retweet it or try to put something out there that someone will like instead of you liking it. And that comes, I think, from just being, transparent and who you are. And I think doing different things was another thing I took from Lewis. I reminds me to put in my application for Naked Attraction. I keep forgetting. You've got to put yourself out there, folks, and take some chance. And whatever format that means for you. But I think if you want to get popular on Twitter, which is why you're all here, you're going to have to put yourself out there, I think. It was interesting, the research bit that Lewis threw out there about, text itself, just plain text being probably the most popular format on Twitter. Unlike other social networks, where video works really well. We know that's what Instagram are pushing on Reels right now. And we know that's what TikTok's all about. I think Twitter is sticking more to this text-based popularity. And so, text and images and all those other elements like video are not as popular on Twitter. Now, of course, it doesn't mean it wouldn't be if that was your thing. If you were a videographer, for example, and therefore you were showing off your work, it's probably quite important to do that. But maybe if you want to get traction on Twitter, sticking to text presently the most popular part of Twitter, as Lewis was highlighting, is a good idea. And work on your brand was the thing for Lewis that I really, stuck in my mind, reminds me personally too of that one. Your personal brand, your company brand, they might have different structures, but what are the values? Why are you here? What are you trying to do to help the people you're serving? How are you going to serve them? All of these things, work on your brand, maybe even before you do your next tweet. Make sure you're very clear on what you stand for, because then you'll know what to retweet. That's something else that Lewis said that stuck with me, is you could be more generous with your likes and your retweets. And I have to say, AJ, for example, he's always supporting me and retweeting my stuff and liking it. And, it makes a big difference. It doesn't cost you a lot to support people, but as long as they're following your values, right? Of course, but you got to get that thing right. That's what Lewis was saying, and it really struck with me. AJ talked about building a community around you, which I think isn't talked about enough when you're trying to come up with that one-liner brilliant tweet that goes viral. Sometimes those things go viral, in my experience, because your community resonates with it and they have shared it. So we have a Discord channel called Entrepreneurs Helping Entrepreneurs. We have over 1,000 entrepreneurs on there. And sometimes I pop that tweet into that community and say, hey guys, what do you think of this? And it's that community that make the tweet popular, not necessarily the feed on Twitter itself, right? So building a community off Twitter can actually support you on Twitter. And that's something that AJ, I know, does very well in his business. And that's something that anybody these days isn't doing. It's probably making a mistake in marketing. You've got to build a community. And I think basically that's it. I was going to name drop more people that I speak to on Twitter Spaces, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to close it there and say thank you again to the panelists. Thank you to Tide Banking for helping us promote these events and supporting us. Sammy is in the chat. If you want to ask him any questions before we close this webinar today, feel free. And I want to again thank everybody here. Just to let you know, we have a new podcast dropping tomorrow, which I think you guys are really going to enjoy. Free My Meal. It's a business basically designed to help those that can't afford to get food by community actions. So we've been talking a lot about community today, and basically Hayley will be telling you all about how she built that purpose-driven business against all the odds. She got 2 kids, a very busy husband, a busy life, and she's managed to build this business that helps others from scratch with no money, and helping thousands of people every week get a meal. So you'll be inspired by the story, and we'll be dropping that podcast of her story tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then next Tuesday, part of our Unicorn podcast, where we interview the world's most successful entrepreneurs, people that have built billion-dollar companies. How did they do it? So the founder of Shazam is on Tuesday. And Chris Barton will be talking about how he built that business up and sold it to Apple. It was Apple's single largest transaction when they bought the company at the time. And he'll be telling you how he built that company up and what his strategy was for that on Tuesday. And next Wednesday, we have how to hack Facebook and make it work for your business. Facebook is not dead. I'm sure that'll be a t-shirt released by Mark Zuckerberg himself very soon, but it's not dead. There's still some life there. If you want to learn how to make it work for your business, then we'll be talking about that next Wednesday. We've got some incredible panelists as well for that event. So please do join us. And again, thanks everybody for joining. Really appreciate you all.
Thank you.
See you all. Bye.